the only way that you're going to succeed as an artist is if you put your true self into your work. What you enjoy, there's other people in the world that will connect with it and feel that energy, right? How am I going to merge what I'm doing with my passion?
Condolences for the Lakers, but congratulations for the imminent birth of baby Goldie.
Yes.
Coming up.
Yes. Fuck, man. It's like a few weeks away.
Oh, God.
Pretty excited, man.
When are you expecting?
June the 3rd.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 3 weeks or something. I don't know, something like that. Yeah, 3.5 weeks.
Just about, yeah. What are we now? My God. Life's going to change, dude.
Looking forward to it. I've wanted it for so long, and it's finally happening.
Yeah.
Excited. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much growth that comes out of like forced growth.
Yeah.
So, be prepared. It changes your whole outlook on everything, man.
That's like, I think that's like the most exciting thing for me, because like all my friends that have had kids, they like told me like it's an unexplained feeling that you have when you have your own kid, and it's like something like you've never felt before.
You've always been, for your whole life, you have been the most important person in your life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for the longest while, anyway. You're married, so you know you're starting a family. But then it'll get to a certain point very early on. You realize that you are no longer the most important person in your life. Like, you're now there to serve this little baby. Yeah, this fresh human.
I'm looking forward to it, man. He's got all the fucking Lakers gear already.
I've seen that.
Starting to think about toddler wear, or just, I love it, man. Everything about it. It's like I stopped buying myself toys now. I just focus on
him. You live vicariously through. I'm the same. It's like, I can't justify dropping some coin on a pair of kicks for me, but like my kid, that's different.
Oh my God. And I was trying to get him like a pair of like baby Kobe's, and it's like, they're fucking hard to come by. And it's like $800 like on secondary market for baby Kobe's. I'm like, fuck, man, I can get myself like my dream Grinches for like that much, and I wouldn't justify that for myself. Like, I can't get it for him because it's like he's gonna wear them for like a few weeks and then it's done. And
depending on what size, I wouldn't even be walking around. Just be pushing him into.
It's just for the photo op. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about how with creatives and artists, how you bring in so much of your life into your work and so much of your work back into your life as well. So I'm just seeing, like, from, for you, how that is going to then like take you to a different level, because like so much of your work has been focused on your passion of basketball and painting and art and bringing that together. And I'm just wondering like how that's gonna shift it all for you. I was gonna ask you, if one of them was to go, painting or basketball, which one of those would you give up first?
Fuck, man, that's a tough question. Like, I guess I make my career in painting and art, so like I guess I would need, like, I'm not a basketball player or a coach or anything like that, so it would have to be basketball that would go. But they're so intertwined for me, like that. That's a really tough question.
That's one of the things where how you're able to then bring the passion of the sport, because like your work wasn't always around about basketball, right? Because you were saying earlier on when we were chatting about how everything started off for you. You started off in industrial design.
Yeah.
So let's go back to that. All let's start there, because it was toys.
Yeah. So like I'm an avid toy collector, and when I was a kid, let's take it back. When I was a kid, like I loved Disney and like everything about Disney. So like I wanted to do something in affiliation with Disney. And then, like, I grew up a bit and I was like, my parents were like, what are the chances of you actually getting an animation job and stuff like that? Like, be more realistic. And I was like, okay, so what else am I interested in? Toys. So then I pursued industrial design and with a focus in toy design. And I did like a 3.5 out of 4 years, as I told you, and then I like kind of deferred out. And then I went back and did animation anyway at uni and graduated top of my class. And when I finished, I was just so burnt out. Like, I was like, I just can't see myself in front of a computer doing this shit forever. Even like when I was at uni doing animation, I did like a semester of frame by frame animation, hand drawing, like a full feature video clip and stuff like that. But it was just like, yeah, my heart wasn't in it. And the whole time I was doing all these things, I was doing street art. And like, that's the only thing that kind of brought me joy. And like, I think it was like in between industrial design and animation. I had like a little 2-year gap there that we started our studio, the Arts Hole, just like me and my mate Roger and another one, Sean, and Niari Frames, Fallon Frames. There was just like 4 or 5 of us in there, and we were just fucking around in there, you know, like trying to teach ourselves how to get better. I didn't pick up a brush or anything like that at that point. It was just all spray paint sort of thing. And I found like, that's where I found my enjoyment. So like at the end of the animation course, I was like, can I try and make a career out of art? Like, do I try and do that? So then probably like, yeah, about 2 or 3 years of the starving artist sort of thing, where I was like doing group shows and like trying to like figure myself out, trying to find my voice. I was doing like a lot of like t-shirt graphics. That was like my bread and butter sort of thing for like brands like all over the world, you know. It was like I was doing pretty well. But like in terms of art, like I just couldn't find my voice, and doing YouTube tutorials at night and figuring out how to paint with a brush and like exploring different mediums and stuff like that. And you know, like at that time the trend was like, you know, I was definitely doing portraits because like portraits was always my strength, even in street art. So I was painting girls. Like that's what sells sort of thing at that time. Like that was the trend. And I was like, how am I gonna like differentiate like between all these like super talented people that are painting women? Like I was looking up to Roan. Like he was like my be all and end all sort of thing. And I was like, I'm never gonna be at his level. I'm never gonna top him. Like, why am I doing this? And he's like my inspiration. What can I do? Like, I was just trying to figure out a niche, because I feel like in the art world, if you don't have like an individual voice of like what's truly you, then you're not really gonna succeed. You're gonna kind of sit in the middle sort of thing.
100%, man. I could not agree with that more. I think that's one of the challenges that people have. This is the biggest challenge, is looking introspectively, and trying to figure out who you are, and then what you can then put into the work, rather than doing it the reverse way. Right. Now, that's also part of that journey. When you were saying that, you know, that whole starving artist thing. I kind of think, and as you were saying, I was thinking, it's like, you know, that it's like going through puberty. You know, it's like you're this awkward, gangly kid. You know, your voice is broken. You don't have a sense of identity. You were once this, you know, happy-go-lucky kid that, you know, you didn't really care for much, and then now all of a sudden everything's changing, and you're like, I've got to start figuring some things out. I don't know who I am. So then that's when you kind of stumble through things and like, and you're just awkward about it. But it's such an integral part of that process, right? Like how much you learn. I love the name Arts Hole, by the way. I've got to put that in the subtitles and make it clear what that's about. That's wicked, man. That whole collective, the group that you guys have put together over the years, man.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, we've definitely had people coming in and out of there, and I can't believe. I think it's like one of the longest running studios in like street art studios in Melbourne. Like we're on like I think this is year 13. Yeah, it's like someone said to me the other day. It's like if you like cross over 10 years as like a ongoing organization, you're technically known as an institution. And I love that. I was like, fuck, I can't believe it. We're an institution. The core in there is like kind of always been there, and like I've just loved to see all those guys grow, and it's been so awesome. Everyone in there's serious now. It's like what we envisioned like years and years, and like we had so many years of like people just messing around in there and just like, you know, in one day and then gone for 3 months and then come back and piss fighting around. But like in there, everyone's like full
You got some
steam.
serious cats in there.
Yeah.
Man. When we caught up for coffee, it was around about the time, I think it was the week before I recorded with Chico.
Yeah.
And through researching a lot of Chico's work, I came across Sahil.
Yeah.
And so I caught up with you, recorded with Chico, and we were talking about a lot of the collaborations that Chico had done, and I fell in love with the work that he did with Sahil.
Yeah.
And just coincidentally, Sahil was promoting his open studio.
Yeah.
So I want to go down, I want to check this guy's out, I want to check out his work. And lo and behold, it was the Arts Hole, and I had no idea, man. And it was just like, look at this shit, just everything just comes together like that.
Yeah.
You got a good group of people there, man. I think that like it's when you have that collective of highly talented but driven artists that are, and you're all on the same wavelength as well. You know, it lifts the quality and the spirits of everyone that's in there.
Absolutely. And it's like so essential to like bounce energy off, and like if someone's like working on like a big project, you're excited for them, you're also like a little bit competitive, and you're like, fuck, like I'm a bit stagnant at the moment, like, and it like kind of gives you like a kick up the butt
lift
to
your
like
game.
lift your game. And it's like, it's so awesome though. Like I think at the moment there's none of that in there. Like everyone's just like kicking goals at the moment.
It is such an energy thing when you're working in the creative space, and the more that you're able to feed off people that are complementing what you're bringing, being able to lift it up, then it's only gonna improve and help you.
Yeah.
I want to go back to when you were saying you were doing industrial design and you wanted to create these things, and you wanted to animate, you want to work for Disney.
Yeah.
And the advice that you got was, what are the chances of you making this? Let's just focus on something safe.
Yeah.
It's such a common thing to be told, right? Like, but how would you now, if you being you, and you could then go back and talk to yourself at that age, how would you want to, I guess, address that?
Well, my parents, like very traditional Eastern European Jewish parents, Ukrainian Jewish parents, and they don't have a creative bone in their body. My dad was like into music and stuff, but like in terms of making a career out of art or anything creative like that, they couldn't see it. The thing they always used to say is like, how can you be an artist? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to sit in the courtroom and be like that, courtroom illustrator? Like, they couldn't see a career out of it. So like my whole life I had like a complex with it. In a way, like I think like it kind of like made it more like a passion, like more of a hobby, like to kind of get raised with this idea that like this is something you do in your fun time. It's not something that you can like make money out of. So like it has its pros and cons. Like now, like me going to be like a dad, I'm thinking about like my son, and it's like if I push like my thoughts and what I'm about onto him, will that push him away in another direction? You know what I mean? it's a tough question because like it all depends on the individual. I wish I had like reassurances and stuff like that, like growing up. There's another example of that with a friend of mine, like that I went to high school with. This guy was like the most talented artist I've ever seen. He was a genius as well. He got like a 99 point whatever enter score in VCE, and like his parents were like a brain surgeon and a heart surgeon. The guy was like destined for like genius, right? He got into medical school and he did it for like a month, dropped out and went into art school.
What's he doing now?
He does stuff with the NGV and shit like that. He's
Oh.
like legit like higher level artist now.
Yeah, he found it.
Yeah.
Just lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky that, well, not so much luck, just had the balls just to be like,
Yeah.
you know what, no.
Yeah.
Like just because you're good in something doesn't necessarily mean you need to.
So it's like
pursue
another one of those stories where he like grew up obviously with the same pressures as I had, but like he had this supreme talent to have the option of what he wanted to do, whereas I sucked at everything else. So I didn't really have an option. I had to go into the creative field because like I couldn't even imagine doing anything else. Yeah. There was a point of time, I'll be honest, where like I could have gone into the food world and been like a chef. I think that was like my backup plan always, to be a restaurateur. I managed and ran a like Italian pizza shop for like, I was like nearly 7 years. I was in the kitchen, I was cooking pizzas and like all this kind of shit. So like I was like, when I was trying to find myself, that was like always my backup plan.
Pizza's a good one, man.
Yeah.
There's no limit to what you could do with pizzas.
Yeah.
But no, man, like I've sat on that advice, and I don't always, and to your point, I don't think of it as bad advice. I think it's always people wanting the best, right? Especially if it's coming from parents, they want the best, and they want there to be some kind of stability, right? They want you to have a comfortable life.
Absolutely.
So without a doubt, but sometimes you could use that advice, and you were saying it pushes you. You treated it like a passion, and I think that was really important, right? For you to then say that, okay, you know what? Maybe there is no career.
Yeah.
Maybe I just have to treat this as a passion, and then you're able to invest that part of it and work on that element of your craft, rather than how do I then make a living out of this from the jump. Where you see a lot of that now on social media, that people they mold themselves firstly to the business side of things. You know, that they're looking at trends, they're trying to emulate the journey that someone else has already walked down, and it just doesn't work for them, because you got your own thing going on. You got like your 30, 40 years of experience, or even at that age, probably even less, right, of life experience. So it doesn't work in the same way. So you have to kind of just go out and sort of like that, fuck around and find out.
Yeah. But that said, like, I strongly believe that, like, if you're influenced by someone and, like, you've seen their success, there's a road there. And, like, you take a look at their career and you see, like, all the check marks as they, like, grow in their career. And it gives you, like, a kind of a path. And this is actually like really funny, and this is like the true inspiration of like how I came to this notion, was in The Simpsons when Homer decides to be an inventor. This episode where he has like a map of like Thomas Edison and Leonardo da Vinci and like him in terms of inventions. I was like, that's the way the world works. And like the people who figure that out faster, that there's stages and like there's a road to your success depending on like how hard you want to work. Like that was like my inspiration. Yeah.
And it's all unique as well.
Yeah.
You have to kind of like, you got to lean into that individuality, that uniqueness.
Yeah.
And that kind of plays back into like, what we were discussing about trying to find who you are, and don't worry about the rest of it. Right?
Yeah.
Just lean into that first.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it will play out. And you can see even like with your work and the journey that you've gone through, that, you know, you started doing the portraiture, you've started doing painting, and there's been such a consistent trajectory that you've been on. And at some point, it kind of just clicked for you, yeah? Like before things were going this way, there was a point where you're like, you know what? I've kind of found this thing works with this here, and you brought things together.
Yeah.
So at what point, can you tell us about that particular, not at that moment, but there was a point where you're like, I'm just going to focus purely on the various passions that I have around me, bring them all together and run with that.
Yeah. There's this artist in our studio, his name's Unwell Bunny, or Ed Beschervaise, and he is the Master Yoda D&M art chat guy, right? And we always have like these huge like 2 hour long D&Ms about art and what it means to be an artist and how to grow and stuff like that. And we were like chilling late at night one night, and we had this conversation, and I said this before, and he was like, the only way that you're going to succeed as an artist is like if you put your true self and like into your work, because like what you enjoy, there's other people in the world that will connect with it and feel that energy, right? I was doing the portraiture, going through the motions, and like I was leading up to my first solo show, and I was like really taking in that advice. I was like, how am I going to merge what I'm doing with my passion? Because I wasn't so passionate about female portraiture, but it was just like what I was being known for. I was doing murals of it, I was doing paintings of it, it was selling. So then I was like, all right, I'm going to paint them on basketball courts. I'm going to like put them in basketball swag. I had them on like memorabilia flags and stuff like that. And the show sold out before it even opened. I was like, fuck, man, like maybe I should just do just basketball shit. It was just such like a reassurance that there are people on the same level as me that like enjoy the same things as I do. And at that point, there was no one like really, there's maybe like a handful of people in the world that were doing like basketball art or any sports art at all. There was like a lot of graphic design and like kind of that, but like in terms of the art world, there was just not that many people. And it was like, I started slowly leaking it into like my feed, and like a lot of my friends and my peers were like, this is just for shits and giggles sort of thing. And I was like, no, like, this is what I want to do. I want to somehow like connect, you know, my love of art and my love of basketball, and just, you know, create these, you know, original works of art and see where it goes. Like, I think there's potential in it. I didn't see like where it was going to lead me to now. I think like after I met Eric Gordon, he was my first NBA player that I got to gift an artwork to. I was like, holy shit. At that point, I was like, this is the best thing in the world. Like, because of my painting, I got to meet this NBA player, like have one-on-one time with this guy. I watched this guy like every week, you know, play. And then like it started snowballing, and it was like, you know, Kobe and Shaq and Lillard and all this shit. And it's all because of the art. And it's like, what more can I ask for?
And they love coming down to Australia. And when they do come down to Australia, you're one of the first people that will get to shake their hand as well.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like there's definitely been a saturation in the market now. There's definitely more people doing it. And like, man, like I'm all for it. Like I can't do everyone. And only people are like, oh, he's stepping on your toes and all that kind of shit. But like the reality is like, the more people doing it, the more exposure there is to it, the more value it brings to everything, the sport, my art, everything. Like, you can't look at it as competition, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to lie, there are certain, like, situations and players where, like, an opportunity where I wish I had it, but, like, at the end of the day, like, I can't have them all, you know what I mean? And, like, yeah, I can't complain with what I've got.
Basketball community, when I was over at Basketball Australia, I recognized how deep the creativity culture was in just that. Like, you have a sport, it's just a game of 10 people throwing a ball in a ring, but how much that has permeated into other areas of culture. You know, the creative community within is deep and really deep. A lot of incredibly talented folk out there that are doing something similar to you, you know, that they just have this passion to create and have a brush or have a camera or, you know, whatever the medium may be. And like, how do I combine these two passions? And there is this, it is a community essentially. And how you can then, it's almost like that the community, the creative community around basketball is almost as big as the professional platform of the sport.
Maybe in Australia.
Maybe in Australia, yeah.
Not in America. There's a lot of ballers in America.
Yeah,
sure.
Everyone from as soon as they're walking. You go from wanting to see how you can bring in your two passions, and for you it was just like, you know what, I'm just going to do this, whatever comes of it, comes of it.
Yeah.
And then from there, and to what I was saying about there was this consistent trajectory, there was then you applying what you brought into it and just creating, and you were painting and painting. And then you can even see how your style has evolved as well, because you did a lot of the, it was almost like, you know, the realistic portraiture kind of stuff, to now you've developed a style that looks like Ohnoes, right? Like you got to look to it now.
Yeah.
So you can spot it from anywhere, man.
I try, yeah, for sure. I think that was always like something that was like in the back of my mind. Like, how do I separate myself from everyone that's kind of doing the same thing? Like, yeah, what signature blend? And that, going back to my industrial design days, I had this, I think he was like the head of the industrial design thing, and I was having a meeting with him, and he's like, you know, there's only like so many people in the world with your background and with your inspirations that, like, to find your uniqueness will, like, how did he articulate this? So basically, coming from my ethnicity background, with a street art background, with an interest in basketball and animation and Disney, and implementing that into industrial design, like, it narrows the like individuality, like, and he's like, to really find your voice, you just got to like slowly combine all these little focuses. So like, I always like kind of took that in as like something in the back of my mind into how to bring that into my work. So like, a lot of my work is titled with, you know, my favorite songs, or there's like my street art influence in all my basketball work, and like all these little things that like I've learned along the way, kind of like, yeah, that's how I kind of found my unique style, I suppose.
Dude, it's funny that you should mention that, because I've been thinking about this, the concept of one of one, right? And how that combats with imposter syndrome, because, you know, we will all at some point feel imposter syndrome. You know, if we were to, for some people, if they were to, you know, get a promotion that they don't necessarily feel as though they deserve, or land a job or a gig, or, you know, being in a company of certain people, like, oh, you know, like, do I deserve to be in this position? But then you have to narrow it down, and like you were saying, just slowly narrow it down and recognize that you are one of one.
Yeah.
And you are the only person that is going to be in this position.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how you should really look at, if you ever do feel as though that you are an imposter in your situation, consider that there's no one else that is meant to be in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. As an artist, I generally feel imposter syndrome every single day of my life. I always have the jitters when I start a painting or a mural. Always, like, no matter what, like, my anxiety levels, like, especially like right before a wall, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Even though I've done thousands of walls at this point, like every time I'm like, I'm going to hurt myself, I'm going to fuck up the face, or like something's going to happen because I don't know, like it's something that like a complex that I've had since I was a kid. I think that once you get in the motion of like just doing the work, you like phase out of it. Yeah.
You're in it. Yeah. And you just let things flow.
Yeah.
I feel that with every episode that I do, because it's a different person.
Yeah.
It's a different energy that you're bringing, and there's just so many things that can go wrong, and so many things have gone wrong, and I'm always like, oh fuck, this. And it's like, dude, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Just get in there, and things will just flow, and you can just chat. But that's the thing with anything that you do that's going to be creative or artistic, and those jitters, that feeling of anxiety, that fight or flight response, right?
Yeah.
Like you'll put yourself in an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
So it's also your body, your mind and your body preparing you to do something sick.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine. You could probably, that rationally.
Yeah.
But the fact that you have this huge wall, this blank canvas, and it's now, and because you're painting, it's not entirely forgiving either. Right? I mean, you can definitely paint over it, no problem.
Yeah.
But every stroke that you put down with the can or with the brush, it's there.
Yeah.
And you can't undo that.
Yeah. Well, with art, it's a bit more forgiving. You can paint over it, fix it and stuff like that. And that's what I can keep telling myself, even though I can't describe where these anxieties come from. And I'm sure it's the same in every career. I think it's just like time is the thing that like constantly eats away at my anxiety. There's not enough time in a day for all the things that I want to do, and like I just want to be able to smash it and kill it, and like it's an issue too because I can't stop and enjoy the things that I do, and that's like probably the thing that I've been trying to grow the most over the last like 2 years. I've been going like so flat foot. And I keep like trying to tell myself to just take a step back and like have a look at what you've done, because like I'm pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and like I don't have a moment to like step back and be like, holy shit, like I kicked this goal that I wanted when I was a kid, this goal, and this goal, and it's just like sometimes you just like take a step back and have a look at like take check of your life and see what you've done.
Absolutely, man. Like if you were to tell yourself, let's go back to the kid that was doing industrial design, and you would tell him, it's like, hey, chill out, think about this, within the next 15, 20 years, you're going to create work and you're going to present it to Shaq, you're going to shake his hand and he's going to love it. Yeah. Like no joke, that's actually going to happen.
I would have like laughed at you. I was like, what avenue is there for this thing to, and that's like, this is the most underrated thing about the creative industry, and like I think it's more like almost as important, if not more important than the actual art, is networking. Like, and I tell this to like anyone who like speaks to me or to my friends or to like any like aspiring artists that hit me up. I'm like, use like every resource you have, meet people, spend time, go out and meet them, like take them for coffee, take interest in their life, even if they're not in a high position. If they're in the company that you want to like eventually see yourself, like there could be something interesting there. Like just take the time to get to know people. Like LinkedIn has been like my biggest resource. Like it's so funny as like a creative to say that, like where there's Instagram and Facebook and all these other more creative networks. The reality is like, if you want to work with like big companies, that's where they live. Yeah.
Yeah, you're more of a, I don't want to call it networker. I think it's more of a person, you connect with people.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's a bit of a difference there. Like when I was speaking with Justin Maller on this pod, and he landed a whole bunch of big jobs through this one connection that he had, and it was this guy that brought him on, and he did this massive, over in America, this huge Verizon job, and from there he worked with, I think, like DC, Nike, all of those, just through this one connection. But it wasn't about just hitting someone up and saying, hey man, love your shit. You know, just, it's not about just making them aware of you. It was about going that extra mile and wanting to connect with that person.
Yeah.
Right? Not that person in that role.
Yeah.
But trying to understand who that person is. And to your point about people in the creative field, there's so much inspiration to be taken from the people that you meet and connect. So, you know, just having this conversation with you, and the last time when we spoke, like last year, there was so much value just in sitting down and understanding what it is that you do, and then going into your studio and checking that out. And, you know, you're able to then look behind the work and understand more about the work as well.
Absolutely. And it's like, I draw my inspiration from these people that I connect with, because they have like their whole different career, and they had all different check marks and like different like avenues to get to where they were. And like, you just don't know. You don't know the people they know. You don't know how hard it was for them. And it's like super interesting for me. I like the puzzle. Like, you know, you worked with Basketball Australia, and like, obviously you would have been one of the guys I would be trying to like chase down at LinkedIn. Never found you, but like,
it's because I was horrible at it. I was not really active on it.
But it's like, you know what I mean? Like, and now it's like, we're like sitting here like, you know, years later, and it's like,
it's cool, man.
It's very cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
And the same with Rush, and the similar story with your work and how I came to know your work as well. I mean, I've been following your work for ages. I think we were connected on socials, but we'd never crossed paths or anything. But I was telling Rush about how when I was there, and, you know, the creative director had a team of other creatives, and the videographer came across a video that Rush put together, this promo that he did, and, you know, we loved it. Really enjoyed the quality, but also just how he was able to make the players really personable, and there was the essence behind it. We wanted to try to capture and bring that in to the Basketball Australia fold.
Yeah.
And I think it was around about that time as well when you collaborated with Chad, and you guys did that court for Summer Jams.
Yeah.
That was sick.
Yeah.
What a massive opportunity that was as well.
Oh, it was so awesome. And it's like, it was funny with the Summer Jam guys, because like, I think we were trying to work together for a bunch of years leading up to that. But like, I was dating my current wife. She was in Toronto, and like, it always like coincided that like I was on the other side of the world when Summer Jam was on, and it's like just kind of like never worked out. And then like that year was like, it just happened the year that they exploded. I think it was, you know, the sprinkling on the cake to say like, on my career. Like after that, like I think everything took off, and I can't thank those guys enough. Like Chad is like one of my mentors, and he's a fucking genius, and he's the Yoda, and yeah, I sing his praise all the time. I like, yeah.
Anyone that is within the basketball community, and even outside of it, just on the peripherals of it, but if you're in the basketball community, you've had some sort of connection with him, and you know, you do have a lot of praise and admiration for what he does and what he brings into the community as well. But they're the Summer Jams guys, that they're good at eyeing out quality people that do quality work. Yeah, you know, I think that's says a lot about their success as well, that they've brought in the right people and have brought the right ingredients to put basketball on this platform, and really lifted and elevated the basketball community and the awareness of it through other forms of creativity as well. It's not even just about basketball anymore. Yeah. No, it's about the music, it's about the art, about the design, about the fashion. It's a culture that they've set.
Yeah, they're a machine now. A well-oiled machine.
Yeah. And very much necessary, man. Like there's not much, and this is, you know, speaking as someone that was worked at Basketball Australia, there needs to be some kind of organisation to take basketball in Australia to that level. You know, there's not much of it. I mean, NBL do a respectable job as well of bringing in different ingredients to elevate that spectacle that they're creating. But as far as a culture, I think that Summer Jams is like, yeah, they're at the top
Absolutely.
of that.
And like, all in all, Australian basketball scene is like kind of leveling up together simultaneously, because just there's so much talent right now in the NBA that's from Australia, and like the next generation's already here, and like the future generations are going to be, it's just going to multiply more and more. Like, I think I saw a stat the other day that like, and this is like a reoccurring stat, that Australia is the highest viewership per capita outside of the US of the NBA. And like, to think like we're competing with countries like China and like all these like huge basketball countries, and that like per capita we are the highest consuming, you know, country of that content. Like, it's got to tell you, like,
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, man.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense.
yeah,
But it kind of just, I don't know how well it translates beyond the NBA, right? Like, if you take NBA out of it, how much interest is there in basketball outside of that particular association, that organization?
well, I think like what the NBL is doing right now is like fantastic, because like what they're doing is like they're creating up the pathway system for like young dudes, and also like trying to like sneak some of the older retiring dudes here, and it's like a beautiful, like, I see the vision what they're trying to achieve, and it's like so good for the sport, because like we get both ends of that like cycle. I'm just excited for like the next 10 years.
And the NBL know exactly who they are, right?
Yeah.
They're not, there's no bullshit about it.
Yeah.
They know that there's quality talent here in Australia, and they also know that there is enough interest to, you know, to have that platform for the younger generations.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they're competing against colleges.
Yeah.
Right. And it's almost like a no-brainer. Like, why would you not want to come down?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're at the tail end of your career, man, this is a good spot to retire. This is a good spot just to finish off, you know, the last couple of seasons.
I wish more NBA players like started seeing that, and I think like as more of those young guys that are coming through our system and going to the NBA will kind of bring more light to them. Like, I love like Charles Barkley and Shaq and shit talking about like Australia on like TNT. Like, it's fucking insane to me. Like, it's so good.
Well, we got the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah.
2 Aussies, 3 Australian born. If you want to include Kyrie. So that's pretty sick, man.
Yeah.
And Exum, what a comeback.
Yeah.
Dude.
So good.
Oh my God.
So good.
He's just firing on all cylinders as well.
Yeah.
And then when you have a sport that is going to grow in popularity, and we are also multifaceted people as well, you know, so there's always going to be, you know, where there is interest in the sport, you're then able to then elevate that community, and then people are going to, like yourself, inject themselves into, you know, bring their other passions into it, and then just push it out even further. Because you have like Lee Olsen, for example, and Tyson Beck, they've just, you know, they've taken this to a whole different stratosphere, man. They've permeated into the culture in deep, right?
Yeah.
Like, Lee's doing work for 2K.
Yeah.
Tyson Beck is doing, you know, all the cards that are just, they're even hard to get your hands on.
Yeah.
You know, it's all here. Like, the talent is here.
Yeah.
We just need to be able to create that platform and really push that culture just to elevate that standard.
Yeah, both of them, like, 2 of my mentors for sure. Like, I mean, I speak to Shifty like almost weekly now. He's the nicest bloke, and he's just like this dude from Townsville. You know what I mean? Like, and I fucking love that guy. And Tyson is just like, he sets the bar for like sports design, not basketball, sports design globally. So
absolutely, man.
Yeah.
That was something that, again, at Basketball Australia, we looked at carefully, because he set a tone, and it was a trend. a lot of the design was going in the direction that the precedence that he set. And you could see that there was something that was like the whole industry was moving that way. So it starts off with a creative leader like him that all his work at the time was heavily basketball focused. Now it's just permeated everywhere.
Yeah.
So then basketball, the creativity, the art and design in basketball was it was leading the way here in Australia anyway. I mean, it was probably much the same, you could say the same as NFL in America as well.
Yeah.
But you could see then from there, a lot of the Australian sports at least were adopting that aesthetic that he set.
Yeah.
And then it was just everywhere. It was just everywhere. That's just how things looked at the time.
Yeah.
So, man, definitely basketball, the culture that it has paved the way for a lot of incredible artists, and not just artists, but also just how other sports want to create their brand as well and their image. Yeah. And then from there, you're going to have a lot of other artists and designers that have a passion for those sports, inject themselves, and then kind of like give those particular areas their own kind of look and feel to it as well. But then even with your, this aesthetic that you're working on, that you're developing, trying to create something that's uniquely you, it's something that's it's so easily transferable across anything outside of basketball as well.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see that everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. I try to keep it within sports now. These days, I'll try and turn away any project that's not sports related. And even then, some sports don't excite me as much as other sports. But, I still get challenges now, when it's not a basketball thing. Because, I'm so invested in basketball and so much of my knowledge is basketball that when I get hit up, to do something for another sport, I couldn't even tell you the famous athletes in other sports, which is pretty sad.
It's fine, man.
But
I probably couldn't either.
Yeah, but it's just something that I've always saw myself across all sports, because I know that so many people now are basketball's the pop culture and this is the trend. I'm trying to expand that and again I'm looking at Tyson. Tyson does everything. So does Shifty. He just across he does NRL and AFL and blah blah blah. You got to look with your eyes out instead of in sort of thing.
Maybe, but I also think you got to look at with your eyes in, because I reckon that those two in particular are doing the things they do because they're also passionate about it, right? With Lee, being up in Queensland, he's a big NRL fan. Yeah. So it's something that, and he just did that latest piece, that homage to whichever player. I don't know, but it was something that he put his personal interest in, and even just threw his son in there as an Easter egg. Yeah, because it was just something that he loves. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It could just be a matter of for you finding, and this is going to change again once you have your kid. Things are going to change for you, man. Yeah. But it will just be what other things excite me, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be something that you're intentionally doing to be able to diversify your art. It will just be something that you'll naturally just gravitate towards. And because your art is your outlet of expression, when you find something that interests you, you're you know what, I feel compelled to want to paint this particular thing or that.
I'm excited to see that, because right now, I can't see what, I have a vision of what my next kind of steps are in my evolution, and I'm kind of one of those people who kind of thinks steps in advance while I'm currently doing something, and seeing the pathway to the way I can get there. And I want to eventually get away more from the hyper realistic and more lean into the art and get into more sculptural stuff and stuff like that. And I have ideas on how I'm going to display that kind of in the future, but like it costs a lot of money, and it's like a lot of risk and like shit like that, and like you got to think about, you know, if you want to push away from what's working and risk it for something different, you know.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
How do you tussle that? Because dude, that's a tough one.
It is, and it's like I think I've done it like a few times in my life, and like if I think about it, like I'm a pros and cons list kind of guy, and like I try to make like really strategic bets on myself, and like it's not about like, oh, if this doesn't work over like straight away I'm out sort of thing. Like I'll always like, you know, dip my toe in a little bit and then like a little bit more and a little bit more and like slowly push it through. Because like even like I've said this before, like the transition into going into full-time art, I didn't just quit my job and then just like go into full-time art. I made myself a plan. Like every 3 months I was working 7 days a week at the pizza shop. I slowly removed a day and then I dedicated that day to art, and then 3 months later I took another day away, and then slowly I transitioned to full-time artist. So like slowly built a clientele and like all that kind of stuff.
But a lot of that will also just be you giving yourself permission to be able to take the risk, right?
But it's not only that. It's not about the permission. It's about like kind of finding my voice in this new kind of style or medium that's like I don't know what I'm doing yet. Like, do I like it yet? So like having that like to and fro sort of vibe is like me also finding myself in that new lane, because it works on both levels. More of like like slowly introducing like my audience to it as well as myself, you know, like me getting comfortable in this new world that I'm kind of trying to carve myself into. Because like right now, like if you look at this the scape, and this is what I did when I like got into like full-time sports art, was like there wasn't many people doing it, right? And now in terms of like more sculptural, more like what's the word, more contemporary art in the sports world, there's not a lot of people doing it, you know. There's like maybe a handful. Like the most probably known one is Victor Solomon, and like look what that fucking landed him. He got like to design all the NBA, WNBA trophies, and he's like across other sports, and he's just like, he's a huge mentor of mine too. There's just like, there's like you got to look at holes in this world and see like, yeah, just expand out of the trends. I think just you got to break it. It's scary, but yeah, that's what I'm always searching for anyway.
Yeah. So it is just the tussle between, you know, when you were saying that you got to look out and I was saying look in. It is just, I guess, a bit of both.
Yeah.
What is it that interests me? What is it that people want to see? But then you go back, like, what is it that interests me? It's just keep on going back and forth, because you're taking in inspiration from everything else out there around you. So you have to look out, and then you bring it in, and then you decide for yourself if that's something that you wanna, you know, put in your arsenal.
Absolutely.
It's tough, man. I know that there's so many ways you can go about it. You know, there's just a leap of faith and just trusting your gut. But then there's also just, and to what you were saying, just being strategic and just being clever with how you want to maneuver. It's all just that bank of experience and the bank of knowledge that you have and all the lessons that you've learned that have now come together. And you first start off with the question, you're like, maybe I should move a little bit out of this space. You know, you're getting too complacent here. And then you're like, as a creative, you're like, okay, what area do I want to parlay in now? Do I want to go a bit this way or a bit that way? And you're kind of just pushing it a little bit, like, okay, this feels good here. Let's just keep going there. And then that branches off. But I always like the idea of when you have a goal set, that goal isn't necessarily there for you to achieve that goal, but is just the carrot that's being dangled just to get you moving, right? To get you moving in a certain way. Then all of a sudden, instead of heading that way, you've kind of moved over there. And now you're doing this when you thought you'd be over there. and then you're just, playing in this area, but then maybe eventually this takes you back that way, or it goes off in a different direction.
Yeah.
And you just got to kind of like just roll with the punches a little bit, just see what feels right.
Absolutely. I think like deep down, like another fear of mine as an artist is like, obviously everyone has a wish list of things that they want to achieve, and it's like once they come close to the end of that list, like what's next sort of thing. And like that's probably my deepest fear as a creative, because like how much like originality can I produce in this like one kind of medium, like few mediums that I'm working in, and always that's why I have like my eyes like wide open. Is just like I need to like expand my horizons and like see what other opportunities might be out there that like I wasn't even thinking about like 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of constantly taking things in, and just letting your subconscious, I guess, just like compartmentalize all the stimulus that you're taking.
Absolutely.
And help using that just to guide you to where you are. And I think that's a very important trait to have as a creative, is to be constantly on, not actively on the lookout, but just being open to everything that's going on, and I was talking with another artist with Miss 180, the episode just dropped this week, about being present in the moment, and that helps with that creative process, right? Like the more that you can take in, if just sitting around this room or wherever you're at, just being fully aware and engaging all your five senses at any one time, you're taking in so much information, and you're just allowing your body, your mind and your body just to experience things and to see what works and what doesn't work.
Absolutely.
To your point about having the bucket lists and the checklist, I was speaking with another creative about gold medal syndrome. Have you heard about this?
No.
So it's about athletes, in particular, I guess Olympic athletes, that they have set their goal as gold, right? That's what they're there to do. They've injected everything about them. Their whole life revolves around optimizing their performance for that one moment every 4 years to achieve gold. So much so that they are so closely identified with being that athlete. They are no longer, this person's friend, this person's son, this person's daughter, this person's brother or sister. They are this athlete that's going for gold.
Yeah.
And then they get in there, they achieve it, and then once they achieve it, what happens then? Right? They were that closely attached to it that they never considered what happens once they have achieved that. Yeah. And a lot of them go through severe depression, right? Yeah. Because they like that was all I had.
Yeah.
That I've now done it. But it's also like the way I'm trying to combat that is that I'm trying to create something and set a goal that I will never be able to achieve.
Yeah.
I know that I'm not going to be able to achieve. Like the whole point of this, I've got this vision for it to be something beyond me.
Yeah.
So I'm always going to be striving towards it.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm never going to get to that end point.
Absolutely.
So the whole point is just then for me to pare things back and have all these particular milestones and checkpoints of things that I want to achieve.
Yeah.
And then just keep on going with that and just keep on growing. I don't want to get stagnant. I don't want to get tired. I don't want to get bored of this, and just be open to things evolving as well.
Absolutely. It's important. And it's like, there's this guy that I follow on Instagram. He's like a talented artist. He's just a strict painter. And he was like a guy who kind of like gave me advice in my early days of painting on Instagram. Like he would do live painting sessions on Instagram, and while he's painting, he would answer questions. And he had this thing that he said one time, which like kind of like blew my mind, is like a lot of people kind of start their career in their 20s, and then they like advance up the chain, and then like by the time they're 40, they're at their kind of peak or 50, whatever. They're a, the manager or director or creative director or whatever. Something like. But he's like, artists don't really start their career until like their 40s or 50s, because in the 20s you're mucking around, in your 30s you're kind of like tweaking in, trying to find your voice, and then like in your 40s you're kind of like taking it seriously, and then like in your 50s you're an established artist sort of thing, and then like your career goes until you die sort of thing. And that's kind of like a thing I think can translate across like all the creative kind of fields, except for like more bunkered down like office work sort of stuff. Like you can consistently grow and like work until like the very end, and you can never stop growing unless you're stuck in that little office kind of vibe.
Yeah, but with that, there is a trajectory that's already been kind of laid out for them, where the artist doesn't have a roadmap.
Yeah,
for you, and you were saying that like in your 20s, they're just trying to figure it out. Like it's like that, that kid going through puberty. You're just like scrambling, doing things awkwardly, trying to find your feet. And when things start to make a bit more sense, when life has a bit more stability or not, it could just be completely fucked, and you're putting that into your work.
Yeah.
But there's just shit going on, but like you find comfort and stability in your art, and then like to your point, when you're starting to better understand who you are, and then you can just go from there. The challenge with that is resigning to that process and just knowing that when things aren't going or don't feel like they're working out, it's fine, because it's still working on you.
It's so important. And like there's so many like people out there in like the interwebs and Instagram that like they're in their early 20s, and like they put so much pressure on themselves for like immediate success, and then they're like obviously ripping off other artists that are like well established, and like they'll do it like 2 or 3 times, and it's like, why isn't this working? And then they'll hit like, sometimes I get hit up in DMs and like like, what did you do differently sort of thing to like achieve like this? I'm like, wow, like this is like a decade plus long grind. Like you can't just like start an Instagram with like 350 followers and then or buy followers and like automatically think you're working with Nike or the NBA or anything like that. You know what I mean?
You got to turn all that off, man. You got to switch up the thinking and just don't worry about the numbers.
Yeah.
A lot of that, I say that like it really influences work not in a positive way, right? Like your work shouldn't be based on what outcome you get from it. And it could be because that the algorithms are doing something and that is pushing your work to a certain group of people that don't want to see it. It's not a reflection of your work.
Yeah.
It's just a reflection of that it's not going out to the right people.
Yeah.
Right? You just haven't found your people yet.
Yeah.
So the only way you can combat that is just to keep working.
Yeah.
Keep working until you find your people.
I think I definitely don't have social media success at all. And like it's definitely another insecurity that I get here and there, where I was like, I feel like it's this thing, like, and I keep reminding myself that like, who gives a shit how many followers you have? It's like, it's the quality of followers, you know what I mean? That like, and then I like have a look through who's following me, and I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
like,
and who's engaging with it as well.
Yeah.
The people that give a shit, they're the ones that are going to be hanging around as well. Mm-hmm. It's that, have you heard of that concept, the 1,000 true fans? No. So it doesn't matter how big the number is.
Yeah.
It's insignificant. You can clock up the numbers, but what you want is just to have 1,000 true fans.
Yeah.
And that's where you thrive, right? They're the people that really get what you do.
Yeah.
That connect with you, that are excited to see the work that you're putting out, that excited to see you grow, that are taking inspiration from you, not the ones that are following you just, I don't know, just for follow's sake, or they're not the ones that are trying to rip you off or trying to tear you down.
Yeah.
You know, you want those 1,000 true fans. So
Absolutely.
if you get that, the other numbers doesn't matter.
I love it, man. Like, it always, like, I have, like, the same, like, 15, 20 people that, like, will, like, have, like, a little insight or a little comment on, like, everything that I post or anything like that. I love interacting with my fans like that. It's awesome.
Yeah, and you're putting yourself out more as well.
Yeah.
It used to just be, your work.
Yeah.
And when you put yourself out there, I see that as only a win, man. When people are able to then get to know you and they get to know how the work, what's behind the work, then when they get to know what's behind the work, they'll appreciate. There's deeper appreciation.
I try. I'm like, I have like chronic shyness in front of a camera. Even now, I got like sweaty palms. I fucking hate
I'm not even. I'm trying to think about it, man.
I know, but like even like I'm trying to force myself to do stuff, and like even yesterday, I was like, I'm gonna try and take like people behind the process of this wall, and like I'm painting, but then I'm like also thinking like, is this interesting content? This isn't very interesting. I'm not gonna post this, and then I'm like, I need to show something more impressive, and like it's such a back and forth, and it's a thing that when you struggle with anxiety and stuff like that, that like you overthink everything, and it's like, but at the same time, people keep telling me like they want to see everything, they want to see the whole process. It's more interesting for them that way, and it's like I'm trying my hardest to like get them through that, like get them behind the scenes more, but like, fuck, like. I don't know what to show when I'm like this comes back to the imposter syndrome. Is like I don't know what to share at what times and like what's important, and then I look at like successful people and they're like, oh fuck, they just like kick goals all the time, and it's like,
you're overthinking it.
Overthinking it. It's like, but
bring it back to like if you were an up and coming artist that wanted to bring their passions together. It's say you can even be specific and say, I want to be an artist and I want to paint basketball related stuff. What do I need to know? What do I need to see? And then your platform could be speaking to those people. Because like the work is great, but there's so much more about the work. And I know you've spoken about this, is that with every project, every job, we see the final product. But there's years of experience that goes behind that doesn't get acknowledged. But that is way more integral, way more important than the finished product. Like that finished product is it's really just another one. Because you're just going to end up moving on and doing another finished product soon after. But then what that was a bank of experiences that came to that particular point, and now you've got more experiences to show. And I think that it's the experiences and the learnings behind it that people really appreciate more, because we get it, right? Like,
it's good advice. I'm gonna think about that next time I'm in my cycles.
Yeah, and just fuck it. Like that's hey dude, when you say advice, it's only because like that's something that I'm trying to figure out as well. It's like just lean into it. Like stop giving a shit. Stop giving a shit. Like
it's impossible. It's impossible not to give a shit, because you've like even like just before like. My wife is like a bit slow on the catching up on my socials, and we were in the car and I was getting coffee and she's like looking through my videos. She's like laughing at me. I'm like, fuck, dude, I was like an idiot for posting that shit. Like,
nah, not at all. I thought it was good.
Yeah,
I thought it was great. And I don't know, how many people did you get hitting you up over that?
So quite a few. I was pretty impressed. I was She's like, you need to like do like the Q&A, like a little icon thing on Instagram so you can share people's questions and responses and stuff. Like, fuck, man, there's just so much to think about when you're just trying to do a job. Like you're trying to like finish this job, and then like there's all this other crap that you got to think about. I'm envious of people like Danielle Weber and stuff like that. Like they're just like unbelievable,
I don't know how she does it.
she's a genius.
She's a content machine.
Yeah, she's a genius.
She'll have a whole team around her, right? She'll have to. There's the work. The work aside, like she's pumping out so much work.
Yeah.
And then to build that amount of content and then just to look happy.
Yeah.
Like always.
Yeah. It's this thing that we like say around the studio. It's like there's some people that are extroverts and like we're all just introverts, and it's just like impossible to get in that extrovert frame of mind. Even like I'm sure that there's other artists out there that kind of feel the same way, that like you're grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, and then you finally like go out and you just can't break out of that mindset. Like it's like I'm out of the show like celebrating like my friends' achievements or like their solo show or like a birthday or whatever, and like I just can't snap out of work mode. Like I think that's like another thing that like people don't talk about often enough.
No, definitely not. And that is one of the, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Of creativity, is that because there's so much of you invested in the work, and then the work is giving so much back to you, that there's no distinguishing. It's really hard to draw a line in the sand. Yeah. It's not like you're going in the office and clocking in, clocking off, and going home and just be like, done with that. Yeah. It's damn near impossible. And to what I was saying about how like you're constantly just taking things in, you know, absorbing as much stimulus that you're banking in all these experiences. So like you're never ever truly off unless you're like having to then make a conscious decision and somehow trying to switch off. That's just going to be the challenge. And that's something that even like, that's something that I was just this past week, I was talking to my wife about. I've found it really hard to be switching off from this. And where I struggle is when it's pens down, to stop thinking about it. And what really aggravates me about it is that I know that I'm not present entirely. Like if I'm there with my kids, I want to be entirely there all the time. Yeah. So it's trying to identify how to draw a line in the sand and to then take my mind off doing, and it's just shit that doesn't even really matter. It's like, oh my God, I've got to do this post. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have to do it right now. Yeah. Right? Like it doesn't matter. It goes up now. It doesn't go up at all. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. But you got to take your mind off it. So it's, you know, I found that like doing really drastic things to change it up entirely helps. And whether it be just going outside or just chucking on PlayStation for a little while and just, you know, playing even just like for 20 minutes, right? Yeah. Just to get me in a different zone. Yeah. And just to step back and then take a deep breath. But yeah, that's something that I've.
That's for me. Is every day is cooking.
Cooking. Yeah. That's a great one. Yeah. That's a great one as well.
It's my transition between my art world and my home world, for sure.
That's perfect. That is perfect. Yeah. But when you have your kid, mate, it's gonna have to happen. You'll have no choice.
Be interesting, because like my whole life has circulated around Mamba mentality. So like, he has this like one part to Mamba mentality where I think he changed it later on though, but like where like, you know, family life suffers, and like my family life definitely has suffered to like the amount of work and the amount of hours that I put in. But like there was always like a deep-seated fear of mine. But like I think like because I've been thinking about like how I want to incorporate my kid into my life, and how when I have a kid, how I'm gonna like tackle these things and these challenges, like I think I've laid out like a plan for myself that will kind of like he'll fold in nicely, and like kind of
you're doing that. Yeah. I did that. It doesn't work.
No,
I tried that. And you just slowly, they're pulling away, and then at one point you're like, I've just got to let go. I got to let go of my life that I knew is not that anymore. It's but to the Mamba mentality, I guarantee you'll be waking up at 4 a.m. Yeah. At least you'll be doing that. You'll be
already wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. My missus, like, she was working with a company in Canada. So like the whole time she's been working Canada time, so like we're already up early and we're ready to go, man. Yeah. I'm ready for it.
Mate, so what are you doing at the minute? What are you working on right now?
Right now, like currently today, I'm working on this mural, It's like a half rooftop basketball court. Basically, there's like a big mural at the bottom, which is more his creative input, and then he let me have full creative control of the cool space upstairs. And that's
Rooftop-
like going to be
rooftop court?
rooftop court, which is going to be like Kobe mural that I posted about. I think this is the first time I can like really say that like someone's put their full faith into me, into like, you know what, we trust you. You do what will make you happy, because like it'll like resonate with like what we're trying to like achieve here. And I said it in my Instagram story, I'll say it again, like I've been trying to get a only Kobe mural for like so many years, and like I've never been able to get one. It's just, yeah, I'm super excited to see the end result of this. It's awesome.
This is, where would you put this as a highlight in your career, being able to do this? Like this, it feels like this is everything that you wanted to do.
Absolutely. Like it's definitely a benchmark. And this year is like been like, I think 2024, the year of the Mamba, is going to be, when it's said and done, like the biggest year of my life, because like my book got released, and that's like kind of like an encapsulation of my journey to this moment, which I can close the chapter on that and like begin this new journey of like the next level. And I have my son coming, and I have this court, and then I'm working on my solo show, which is going to be on later this year, which has also been years in the making. So like those few things that have like been like a massive build up, like I'm gonna be able to sit back at Christmas time and just like really reflect on this year and like be very fulfilled, I think.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Can you share anything about the exhibition at all?
Yeah. So basically, it's gonna be in October this year. I'm working closely with like Nike and Footlocker, and I don't know how much I want to reveal, but I guess it's going to be coming out soon anyway.
All right, let's save it.
Yeah, all right.
Save it for your socials.
Yeah.
And tell us socials. Where can people find you?
_Ohnoes at Instagram, and Facebook is also Ohnoes. I think that's it. Yeah, really.
And Kevin Gold on the LinkedIn.
Oh, Kevin Gold on LinkedIn. Yeah, for sure.
Dude, thanks so much, man. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, it was like a whirlwind. Like, can't believe it. It's like a vortex, this conversation. I went to a different world.
Yeah, good. Good. Now,
we
really got in there. So
Yeah.
we've been gone. It's like about like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.